Okay, hello everybody. Tonight, I'm turning on my lights first. The question I want to start out with tonight is this. Is there a part of us that we can't mess up? What I mean by that is, as we grow and change and we make mistakes, we make good choices, we make bad choices, so much of who we are changes. But is there something that remains the same, moment to moment, from the time we were born until we die? This is the question I want to go into, sharing this beautiful text from, yes, the Kedushat Levi. We are still very much learning Levi Yitzchak Berdichev, our Hasidic rabbi from the 18th century. He says this. It says in the Talmud, Imru lefanai. It says, Amar Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, Ashreichem Yisrael, lifnei mi atem mitaharim, u'mi mitaher etchem. He says, happy are you, O Israel, because before whom do you purify yourselves? And who purifies you? This is from the Gemara on about Yom Kippur. This is where that statement comes from, and the answer, he says, is Avichem Shabashamayim, your Father in heaven. So Yuvan Alpi De'ita B'Zohar HaKadosh, and he says, we see in the Zohar, Mi Kaima L'Sheila, who can, could this question exist? The Zohar asks, Lahavin Zeh, to know, and what it means is this, Ki Yadua Ma Shechochmei Philosophia Katuv. One should know what the philosophers write. Shebekol davar yesh kamut umahu, that everything in the world has a substance and has something to it. There's everything in the world that exists as something, some kind of material. Ratzelomar, that is to say, kamahu b'misparo umahu ba'erko. That is to say, what is it in its number and to what degree? So everything exists physically in some amount and to a certain degree, he says. This is what the philosophers say, says the Kedushat Levi. Ve'itza be'Gemara, but it says in the Gemara, when God, and I'm going to sum up this piece of Gemara, but when God honors God's chosen ones in the Torah, every one of them disparages themselves. So when he honors Abraham says, V'anochi afar va'efar, but I am dust and ashes. And when he honors Moses and Aaron say, Nachnu ma, but who are we? V'yadua, and we learn from this. Oh, hello Yocheb, I'm glad you're joining us again. And we learn from this, She'al ha'borei yitzbarach, Lo yitaken lishol mihu, that when it comes to God, one can't possibly ask, who is this? Ki hu achdut hapashut, because God is a simple oneness, unity. Ein Sof. God is this great unifying, almost nothingness. Umi yashiv al sheila zeh. And who can possibly answer this question that Rabbi Akiva asked? Hanashama. And so then he's going to shift here. Hanashama hu chelek Eloami ma'al. He says the soul is a piece of God from above. Hu dugmat kuchabrichu. And it has in it the likeness of God, as we see in the Talmud. Then he brings a proof from the Masechet Brachot. V'hine kol nishmat Yisrael ein lehem achdut gamor. And behold, all of the souls of Israel are not entirely unified. Aliyot shelahem hu la'ayin. V'lo yitaken lisho alehem gam ken mi. But their uppermost parts, he divides the soul into parts. And the uppermost part is connected to that great unifying Ein Sof, the great nothingness that is God. V'lo yitaken lishol aleihim gam ken mi, and one can't ask about that part of the soul, who is this? There's no identity in that part of the soul. It is just, it's unity. Ki hem ba'achdut hapashut, yeah, because it is simple unity. V'zehu shamar Moshe, and that's why Moses says, V'nachnu ma, but who are we? And that's why Abraham says, but I'm dust and ashes. Because the closer they got to connecting to God, the closer they got to that part of their soul, which was connected to God, which is connected to Ayin, to that great unity. V'anachnu merumaz al Rabbi. And the word anachnu in Moses' speech is a hint about all of us. Anachnu Rabim, because anachnu is in the plural, and yesh achadut ma yecholim lishol aleihem lishon ma. And for all of us, we have that part of our souls that we can't ask about it, who or what. V'yadua, and know this. Sheyom HaKippurim eino mechaper rak ad sheyachnis atzmo legeder ha'ayin. Yom Kippur does not cause any atonement until one brings oneself into the realm of that nothingness. There's work on our part to reach that part of our soul, and then once we do, then Yom Kippur is effective. First we have to strive to go deeper, that is to say, reach that part of our soul, that uppermost part according to the Kedushat Levi. And then once we reach that part, once we've gone deep enough and done the work of tshuva, then Yom Kippur has the power to effect real forgiveness. Sheyomar ani huma sheyesh li v'kol hakochot sheli, and that one should say, me, in everything that is me, in all of my strength, hakol hu lahaborei yitzbarach, all of this is for God. Ve'az midabek atzmo b'midat ha'ayin, and through that intention, one clings one's whole being to that midat ha'ayin. Literally translated as the characteristic of that nothingness, but what he means is that great unifying power of God. I'm just going to say that again. That he says that one should say that me, ani uma sheyesh li v'kol hakochot sheli, that me, that which is me, and all of my strength is for God. And if one goes into Yom Kippur with that intention, if one, I imagine during the Elah, is able to reach that point and have that intention, then one can do that action which we call devekut, of grasping one's whole being to God. Ve'efshar, and it's possible, shezehu kavanat hishtachavaya shel Yom HaKippurim shel Kohen Hagadol b'kodesh b'kodshei kodshim. He says it's possible that this was the intention of all of the bows that the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, did in the Holy of Holies. This was back when we had a temple, and the high priest would go into the Kodesh Kodashim, and he would bow multiple times on his way there, bowing his entire body. The Kedusha Levi says this was the intention. Sheba oseh shehishtachavaya haya mechaven shekol ma sheyesh bo hakol lahaborei, because in that bow, he would have the intention that everything which was in him, everything was for God. Visham yachlifu koach. This is to say, that bow that the Kohen Gadol would do, every bow leading up to his entering the Holy of Holies, he would have that intention that everything that was him, all of his strength, was for God, connecting himself to God. And that's the power, I want to say, of bowing. That's the point of bowing, is you're not just doing this with words, but you're moving your body. It's as if to say everything. When I say the word baruch here, when I say the word modim, thank you, and I bow my body, I'm thanking you not just with my words. I'm blessing you not just with my words, but with my entire being. V'zehu perush divrei Rabbi Akiva. And so this is what Rabbi Akiva meant. And now he's going to bring it back to the beginning. He says, Ashreichem Yisrael, happy are you Israel, lifnei mi atem mitaharim. Before whom do you purify yourselves? Perush, this is what Rabbi Akiva meant, says the Kedushat Levi. B'madrega, okay, listen to this. B'madrega shehu lifnei mi atem mitaharim. Remember, Rabbi Akiva said, Lifnei mi atem mitaharim, which translates to, before whom do you purify yourselves? The Kedushat Levi is saying, no, what Rabbi Akiva meant is, B'madrega shehu lifnei mi atem mitaharim, on that level, which is beyond me, beyond the question of who. That's where you purify yourselves. On that level of which you can't ask who or what or where or when, because it is beyond that. That's where you purify yourself. Dahainu, shehu lamala mimadrigat mi. It's above that level about which you can ask who. It's beyond that. Shelo shayech lishol shami. And there, you can't even ask who. Dahainu, lahabore, because in that moment, it is our Creator, it is God. Mi metaheretchem, who purifies you? Avichem shabashamayim, your Father in heaven. Dahainu, that is to say, kishe atem medabkin bo, when you cling to God. Amen, ken yehi ratzon. Amen, may it be. This, yes, Mom and Steve, I see your question. Before we go on, I just want to hone in on the main idea here, which is that there's always a part of ourselves that remains pure and connected to God that we can tap into if we want to return to that part of us which is always true. And on Yom Kippur, it's a unique opportunity to do so, with all the fasting, with the power of the day in the context of community fasting, and especially this year. Frankly, I think it's going to be harder this year because we're all, for the most part, at home. We don't have the distraction of going to shul, of sharing in those prayers, even though there's tons of streamed services. It's not going to be easy this year. But what that means is it has the possibility of being very impactful and very effective. I think a harder fast, when you get to the end of the day, that feeling of elevation that you get, knowing that you made it, mixed in with the intention of finding that pure spot in our soul, has the power to really change us. And that's what I wish for us. Levi Yitzchak at the end says, Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will that this happens, and I feel the same way for us. So I'll take a few questions now. Feel free to write them on the chat. Let's see. Isn't it true that we in the Kohen Gadol didn't bow? We prostrated ourselves. No? Yes. Yeah, I say bow. Yeah, the better translation of the hishtachave is probably to completely prostrate, which we do when we go totally to the ground, our knees on the ground, our forehead on the ground. And I think that's a more powerful expression of what the Kedusha Levi was saying, that intention of saying me and everything that is me and all of my strength is for God. When you are bending your entire body, when your spine is completely arched, when your forehead is on the ground, and you have that awareness of your entire body, I think that's really what the intention was in a full body prostration. Yes, and now the only reason I say bow is because it's like a mini prostration. On Yom Kippur and throughout in Rosh Hashanah, specifically during the Malchuyot service, we bow all the way to the ground. And there's only a few times that we really do that throughout the year, and it's always on these high holidays. It is an expression of the power of these holidays that we still maintain the tradition of a full body prostration and not just a bow. Yet, still in our everyday praying, we have the opportunity to have that intention when we bow. When we bow in the beginning of the Amidah, when we bow at the end of the Amidah for Modim, that intention of saying, I'm coming to God with my entire being is still there. Another comment from Yochev. Yochev shares a blessing. She said, thanks for the spark of God that is in us. Indeed, times are difficult and different and require greater concentration. Even far away, we use ourselves in the same soul. Yeah, it's not just Zoom and YouTube that connect us, Yochev. As you mentioned, we are connected by that little piece of our soul. I imagine it like kind of the tip of, you can imagine it like how, like light, or like the light coming from a star. There's a central, element that is pure energy, pure heat, and from that, you have nearly infinite, beams of light coming out, from a single star. And that is similar to this imagination of a soul here, where you have this, power, this, indescribable, unequaled power from which, all of our souls, no matter how disparate they are, can point to and say, that's where I come from. And so in that sense, we are all connected. And then Yochev also added, it requires greater dedication and delivery. It's not impossible that my translation is off. And Yochev, thank you for that beautiful blessing. Okay, I'll wait just another 20 seconds or so in case there are more questions. And then we're going to close it for tonight. And I'll wish you a meaningful fast. I know it's going to be hard, but like we've been saying for months now, we're all in this together. And then on Yom Kippur, we're really all in this together. Because now not only are we at home because of a pandemic, but we are also all fasting and trying to observe these holy days together. Okay, Yochev, I see you had one more comment. Yeah, prostration of body and soul with strength before the Creator. And then, thank you. You're welcome, Yochev. All right, and thank you all for being here. Yochev obligato. And I look forward to learning together. Next week is actually Shavuot, not Shavuot. Next week is Sukkot. So we won't be learning next week because it is going to be the night of the second night of Sukkot. And then I feel like the following week is also Shmini Atzeret. So it may be a little bit of time. However, you can join me and the rest of the Sinai Temple clergy for free. There's no paywall to come to the Yom Kippur services for Kol Nidre, And then the daily services, those are streamed to the public. So you can join us starting tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be there. Everybody will be there, and it should be a lovely service. So with that, Shavua Tov. I'll see you in a few weeks when it's not Sukkot. So I have to wish you a Gemar Chatima Tova. I have to wish you a Chag Sameach. And looking forward to learning again soon. Okay, bye everybody. Obrigado. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you, Yochev. Yes, my Portuguese, believe it or not, despite our YouTube back and forth, is still rusty. Obrigado. Okay, everybody. Shavua Tov.